I appreciate Forbes, Heaver and Wallace asking me to come talk about something that's very passionate in my life, and that's assets. Again, I spent most of my career, all my career, from the time I graduated college, in the restaurant industry. So I know we have people from all different industries around. So if I refer to restaurants a lot, I don't really just mean restaurants, I mean commercial kitchens, okay? It also applies to anybody that's producing commercial kitchens, and really just anybody that has assets, right? Because we're going to talk mostly about commercial kitchen equipment, but an asset to us is your carpet, is your walls, is your floors, everything, because everything should have a life cycle, right? When you go invest in a business, and everybody has a business model, we think that you need to evaluate all those components, right? If I have carpet, there's a whole lot of upkeep to carpet. Is carpet important to us? Is carpet part of our marketing? So as we talk about that, I tried to look at, for my career, I started off as a restaurant manager at Chili's in 1989. Back in those days, there's only 100 restaurants. It's kind of hard to believe, but I didn't know anything about a restaurant when I started. Basically, I begged for a job, told them I'd work for free. And then I think I did. But then after that, I kind of moved up into the restaurant, got to become a general manager of a restaurant. And then I started looking at my P&L, right? I learned about assets through my P&L more than anything else, because that's the one line on my P&L that I felt that I couldn't control. That one line on P&L that was killing my ultimate cash to the bottom line, the EBITDA. We didn't talk about EBITDA back then. I think Enron brought that word up. But at the end of the day, so I was like, man, why am I losing money? I did such a great job with my food costs, my labor costs, but all of a sudden I had a $5,000 expense, and that just killed my profitability for the month. So at the end of the day, that made me really start digging into, the why. Why is my equipment failing? What's going on with it? Is there a reason? Is it what can I do to prevent that from happening? I also realized that once service provider walked in my door, they're my highest paid employee I had. So I valued that person they walked in. I didn't treat them like they were terrible. I treated them like, hey, they're going to teach me something, right? You're going to do more than just fix something and teach me how I can prevent you from coming back out again. So it's all those things, again, those what drove me from 1989 to 2000. I was a restaurant manager. And then 2000, I got the aha moment that I thought that as Chili's was growing, we were changing our whole footprint. We were changing our menu. But also we started bringing all this new equipment in. I worked in store number 7, 11, 12, 29, 79, 93. They weren't kind of just evolving into what store number 573 was. So I went and worked at my first new restaurant. I was in Odessa, Texas. And so Odessa, Texas, we built a new prototype. And all of a sudden I was all happy. When I was there on site, and I was in the hiring trailer, I kept going out to the construction site and saying, wow, man, there's not a plug here. I gotta have a dessert hot plate right there, So I go out there making change orders as I go. Well, I got a call from the corporate office that, hey, stay on the construction site. You're killing us, because at the time, Brinker's philosophy was, we're gonna build 200 restaurants a year. We don't care about all the little things. Those little things are gonna be a part of what we pick up after we get through this huge growth spurt. Well, man, it just didn't make sense to me, right? I was like, I don't like that. So I had my third child. My wife said, you're not going to be working in restaurants anymore. I want you to do something different. I said, I'm going to go work in facilities, because I'm going to go back in and help remodel these restaurants, get them into the new era of what efficiency was. Go back and help bring that new equipment in, go back and remodel. So little I know that facilities was going to make me away from home a lot more than my restaurant management days was, right? And so it's going to disrupt my personal life a little bit more, but it's a huge passion I had. So we did about 300 restaurants, kitchen remodels in about 4 years. I then became the director of what we called emerging brands. Well, then emerging brands was stuff like Maggiano's, is Macaroni Grill, is Corner Bakery, is all these other restaurants that they were still just starting, right? We're just starting to develop this concept. Well, they start developing that concept, there's a lot of aha moments that you go into, and you get new equipment, you get new plan, new drawings, new engineering drawings. All these things were coming in. Well, all of a sudden, we had a lot of premature failure. We had a lot of the R&M expense that we weren't expecting. It was really affecting our business model. So when it started affecting the business model, I said, hey, what's causing these things? We go back, there's so many different components into the asset's life cycle. I was like, man, I got to get into this. Well, Brinker decided to sell Corner Bakery off. They sold Corner Bakery off. There were about 26 of us that decided we're going to go. I think there were 60-something restaurants at the time. And again, Lois is in the room. So Lois is like, yeah, she understands because she's a part of this process. So anyway, there's like 67. So we're going to build, and the goal was we're going to build a medium-sized growth company. So we're going to do 15 restaurants a year. We had a great private equity partner that says, yeah, let's do it. So we were really focused on everything was going to last. We had a CEO or president at the time that says, Mike, you don't put anything in that building unless it's going to last 10 years. I don't want to mess with it. I don't want to change it. We're going to run with this. We had a brand new marketing plan that says we're going to go and make this like your dining room or your living room. Carpets and heavy rich woods, things that were really residential type of finishes. So we had to figure out how we're going to go back and keep those going for 10 years. So at the end of the day, I started off as a facilities manager there. When we learned that we had 28 people, we had a lot of holes to fill. So who's going to buy this stuff? And I said, I'll buy it. I want to play. So I got into the procurement side. Well, then all of a sudden it's like I went and watched one restaurant getting built over here in Prestonwood. And I was like, man, these guys don't know what they're doing. So I said, hey, can I knock on my boss's door and say, can I be in charge of construction? He's like, sure. I didn't know anything about construction, but I was going to figure it all out. So then after a while, we started building these restaurants. I started saying, man, we had premature failures. So I was like, the architect, MEPs, we were using outsourced groups. And I was like, I want to do that too. So I went to my boss, said, let me do that. He said, okay, you can do that too. So now I'm in charge of everything except for design. Well, design became just another byproduct of being a part of the person that had to procure, had to build. So then I was able to be leading on the design side. So I thought the only way I could really get a hold of understanding my assets life cycle was to start from the very beginning. And it's something, as we think about that, so that kind of sums up my career. And all of a sudden, Corner Bakery got to the point where we got into a big holding pattern. We got into a change of private equity groups, and they said, you're no longer a medium-sized growth company. You're a fast growth franchise company. We don't care about a 10-year life cycle anymore. We care about a 3-year turn, man, because these guys come in, they want to turn in 3 years. And we want to build hundreds of them a year. So it changed our whole business model, it changed our whole approach to how we developed restaurants. So at the end of the day, we ran that to about 2015, and we weren't really hitting those goals. I wasn't as happy as I needed to be at that job. But my boss came to me and said, Mike, I had stacks of spreadsheets, man, stacks of invoices from service providers saying, what's driving these expenses? Why we can't get this business model down? Well, I was able to go back and trace a lot of things back to something, spec, design, MEPs. There's always a driver that drove these things to fail, which was killing our business model because we were spending too much money in R&M. So my boss said, Mike, you need to put all that stuff you have into a software. Well, I'm not a software guy. I'm a restaurant guy. I'm a frustrated operator that didn't want anything to break. So I was able to find a couple partners in California that owned an HVAC refrigeration company. And they were already doing this asset management approach. They'd go out and they tagged all the equipment that they were maintaining. And then they had their customers just call and say, hey, here's a QR code. Here's my equipment that fails. Well, all of a sudden I'm getting calls from my operator saying, this is the best service company ever. I say, who are these guys? And so I called and said, what are y'all doing? And they told me, hey, we're tagging the equipment. We already know the make, model, serial number. We know the age. We're showing up with parts. We're able to get the stuff fixed on the first time. Without even talking to any of the operators, right? We come in and give them an invoice, say your stuff's up and running. I'm like, that's the model I needed to take, but I can't just use it for one small little market. I take it across the whole company. So I told those guys they were kind of a freckle on my skin, and they weren't a whole lot to me because I needed to go get bigger with this. So after that, we decided we're going to put together what we called an asset management program, because every private equity group we ever worked with always came to me and said, what's your asset management program? I said, if it's broke, fix it. If you need it, buy it. That was what we were. But I said, I also know everything about every store, guys. Trust me, I know everything. Well, they didn't like to trust me. They wanted to see things in data. They wanted to see things. So 2015, 2016, we started developing our software. I took about 9 months off, whiteboarded everything I could think of. And then all of a sudden we ran out of money. So we said, I got to go back to work. So I went back to work for Nuke's Eatery, and I was the VP of development for those guys. And I told them when I went there, I said, guys, if I'm here longer than 3 years, my software program failed. So again, I built the software out of love. I built it out of really wanting to understand how to truly calculate the equipment's expected life cycle and then trying to figure out what drove failures. That was just something that really ate into my skin, but also I knew it ate into my P&L too, and all the stores P&L. So I told everybody, if I give the software away, I give it away because I think it's a tool that people need to help manage their business better. And so that's kind of what, a little bit about my history and a little introduction. And again, what is EcoTrack? And this is my only plug of EcoTrack, guys. And I have one customer here from Wingstop that but at the end of the day, we don't want to just be technology, right? There's technology out there. We have competitors that are bigger than us, that are stronger than us, but they're a work order management system. All they do is track. Again, something breaks. Here's a contact, get it fixed. They don't have the data they need to effectively understand the asset's life cycle. So again, we're more than just technology. We're a group of people that really want to help the customers and help our facilities teams do more than just be a person that fixes something. Our customers have bigger things to worry about. You have projects to worry about. We understand people resources are very tight these days. The profitability for restaurants and any commercial kitchen is very tight. So people don't need to be doing what we think is a simple thing of contacting, fixing, if we all understand what we're contacting and fixing. So we get in the trenches with our teams. We do a lot of consulting. We help them understand what this data means, because asset management is something that this industry hasn't used. And again, you talk to the manufacturers, they get frustrated because again, they think that there's great opportunity if you understood the data, you understood what you owned, you know how to manage it, know how to own it better, right? So at the end of the day, we are more than just of software, but we're really here to help people. We really want people to focus on what's important to their company. It's not just managing a work order, okay? So enough of me and enough of EcoTrack, but we do one thing. This slide represents one thing. No one ever heard of asset management in 2015. We went and presented our case. We knew we had to be a change agent in the industry because people always said, you talk to a facilities manager and you still talk to them today. They're putting out fires every day. They have no control of their life. They also they think they have no control over what drives them to spend, right? And they get held responsible for this spend. They say, it's not my fault because I've been given all this. All I'm doing is just trying to keep stuff up and running for the operations team. That's my main goal. That challenge is not there anymore. So the asset management approach is starting to really take effect in this industry. I think what it does, it requires a very heavy lift with your organization, right? Your organization has to be committed to an asset management approach. And it has to say that, there's a lot of people involved in making those decisions from the very beginning to the very end of that asset. So at the end of the day, this is just a little case study that shows within the last 6 years, we're 250 brands. We have thousands of Taco Bells. And again, the data we get for Taco Bells now, they're able to understand their equipment, they're able to understand how to spec it better, how to manage it better, how to make change. And we also have startup companies. Startup companies are our favorites because we have Lazy Dog. I really helped Lazy Dog. We've helped Lazy Dog so much. Go back and rechange their whole prototype, man, and their whole kitchen lineup because of data we've been keeping from them from day one. So there's benefits from large, small, all kinds of things to have an asset management program. So does anybody here operate under an asset management program besides Wingstop? You do? Yeah. Who do you work with? Okay. Oh, great. Oh, awesome. Okay. So, I'd be curious. Your feedback's gonna be important. Do we have facilities managers here? Do we have designers here? Okay, so kitchen designers. We have procurement people here. All equipment, the building, whatever. Oh, Great. Yeah. So inventory systems, again, I think that's one we find is that one of our biggest challenges is to say, if you don't have inventory, how do you manage? Yeah. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Well, it's good. Again, we realize that, and that's one of the biggest, um, well, yes, sir.
Oh, yeah, because you have any customers that are
We have,
assets there.
yeah. No, we have cities. We have, again, in Florida, we have a couple towns in Florida that have all their assets run through the system. So again, we can really again for our system, for any asset man, again, an asset management program can be adjusted to any size, any type of.
You don't put in kind of interface with service companies for those that service which that they know exactly.
Yeah. I think that's the core. Again, we start looking at the assets life cycle, and we'll talk about that. But yeah, the assets life cycle, part of that is the maintenance, right? This maintenance and repairs. But the main thing is that's way almost on the other side of the circle of an asset life cycle. There's so many other components in the front. We'll talk about what happens if when you start backtracking. When you start backtracking in that process, that's when you start losing money and that's when you start seeing a downturn, right? So what we want to do is try to understand how we can get on the front side of getting those assets put in and getting to make sure everything's correct on the front side and understand that.
As you learn, obviously there's some space, restaurants and stuff. I was in the Navy with something.
Yeah.
So I've learned years that I always have extra equipment. So that one of it, two sets. So down, not down, operating, not stressed. So you learn over the years, but add redundancy to design.
Yeah, what's funny is that it's gone the opposite direction, right? We used to always have redundancy built in. Now at cost, now with reduced footprints of real estate, everything's going to less redundancy, and that's why the importance of uptime is so important on the front side.
You think get equipment last longer.
Right. No, yeah, you think that, but now everything's a financial model, right? It's all based on a financial model, the ability to scale and the ability to grow. And so, the days of, you still see, like in fast food places, they'll have a dine-in, they'll have a drive-through section. So that gives them redundancy of their equipment there. So, but again, we start looking at, your casual dining, your fast food. With Chili's, we always had redundancy. We had 2 grills. We had 2 everything. All of a sudden, everything started getting like this. And we had 1 grill. And we took the grill out. We had some conveyor ovens. And those go down. You're out of luck, So at the end of the day, our agenda, just go back over the agenda. So now kind of have a little understanding. So our agenda, we're going to talk about, what lifecycle asset, the definition of lifecycle asset management. Again, we're going to talk about the phases of the life cycle. We kind of talked a little bit about that already. And then talk about what organization requirements you need in order to adopt an asset management program. And then we'll talk about what the benefits are, as well as what data you need to drive those decisions, right? How data is so important, and that collection of your asset information is one of the most important things you can have by owning that make, model, serial number. And then the technology you need to help support your program. And then at the end of the day, just go over a little case study we done. And again, I can show you what the case study of Lazy Dog just happened like last week, and how powerful the data can really give you some great results are. And then Q&A, guys. One thing I'll tell you is stop at any time, guys. It's this is open session. I'd love to have you guys conversation, because this next slide right here, I think we take this is the easiest definition I can find of asset management, right? And now if it's this easy, then everybody could do it. There are very few people that are actually executing a great asset management program. There's a thought of it, but the execution is really hard. So lifecycle asset management is a process. I think process is the key, which organizations keep their assets running smoothly throughout their lifespan. So again, sounds simple, but now we're going to talk about the complexity of running a good asset management program and understand what that life cycle looks like and how we can expand that life cycle. So the phases of the asset, right? We kind of touched about this a little bit earlier, but at the end of the day, first you have to do is you identify the needs. What is your business? Who's driving those needs? Who's creating those requirements? Is it the chef? Probably the chef has something to do with it, I hope. But your marketing team does. Hey, what do we want? What kind of atmosphere we want to present? Who we want to be? What are people asking for? So again, identifying needs, I think is the most important thing you can do. I've been a part of organizations that says, hey, you build it, we'll figure out what kind of food we're going to sell. That is not how you run a business. Yeah, it's really ass backwards. But at the end of the day, that's been a challenge. And you sit there, you have internal fights all day inside your organization about who's going to make that decision and what you're going to do. So again, identifying needs is very important. But then you have the planning and design. I asked what type of personnel we had here is because large companies, this can be one department, right? One department does the planning and design, and they do their job. What criteria are they planning designing around? Again, are they planning design because they have a box here and they got to make sure all this stuff fits in that box and executes in the way that we feel is the ergonomics in the workflow of the stations? Or again, are you planning before you know all the things that may have to be modified within that operation? And I say that, an example I use a lot is, water. Water is so important to a lot of your equipment, from a water heater to your steamers, to your beverage equipment, to your ice machine. Now again, when you go do that water test, when do you understand what water conditioning system I need to put in my restaurant or my food service equipment? Is it way on the front end of your planning? Because you know what? If you put an RO system in, you got to have a lot of space for that. If you're going to put just a bank of filters in, you don't need a whole lot of wall space for that. But at the end of the day, if you don't plan for it up front here, then it becomes an afterthought. Afterthoughts kill the life expectancy of the equipment and cost you a lot of money. So in this planning design stage, how much due diligence are you putting in on the front end to understand what you really need to make that restaurant the most effective and keep that equipment lifespan up as high as it can? So again, planning design is so important, but then are you planning for what? Again, I think you're planning to get your equipment in, but if that's the case, then there's risk associated with just planning in a box. Then the procurement side, that can be handed off to another person. Sometimes the planning and the procurement goes to your dealer. Sometimes they're doing all that work for you, a space plan, kitchen plan. They're producing those case sheets for you. So if your procurement team, again, that's the specifications. Who's specifying what kind of fryers you're going to use and why? Is it because they have a relationship with a manufacturer rep? They have a relationship. Back in my days at Brinker, we're going 200 restaurants strong. Hey, relationships drove all these decision making. You know what? There's also reasons that we went back and tried to prove the fact that maybe that was the wrong decision we were making, what equipment we were using. So the procurement side and purchasing side is definitely another area where you have risk. And that risk should be, what is the expected life that we have for this piece of equipment? Now, is that being used on the front end? And then what is the warranty we have? And then can we really execute warranties or not? We can recognize how hard is it to execute warranties with every manufacturer. Some manufacturers are really easy. Some manufacturers are really tough. And there's a process there. And the next thing is that coordination between when you get into that case sheet now has to be handed off to your full set of MEPs. Another coordination issue, another break in the process, another chance for you to have a huge mistake. Again, one of the things I remember with Brinker was, hey, we had these smokers, and these smokers had these elements, and the elements kept blowing, and all of a sudden you have a stack of invoices on your desk from all these locations with elements blowing. When you go back and you look at the specifications, you're like, hey, these are 208 elements. You're like, okay, man, we got to go back to Giles and say, give me all these new elements because they're failing. Well, then you finally go back into your construction drawing and see we bring 240 volt power to that 208 equipment. That happens all the time, guys. I can probably tell you 50 times it's happened to me, especially when I got into this design and the stage. I went back and apologized to a lot of people that I was in their face with, saying, God, this is the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. This isn't easy. So that coordination of this cycle, these life cycle phases is so important. And installation and commissioning. Installation is one thing. Who sets the equipment in place? Hey, some people have the GCs do it. Some people have, again, I see franchisees say, we'll do it ourselves. We drop the truck off. We're going to put this in place ourselves. And also the others say, hey, the KES, we have installers that do that for us. But then once they install, who's commissioning that equipment? Is that equipment being commissioned by an authorized service agent? Is it being commissioned by the manufacturer? Do we have a commissioning strategy? And again, one thing that I learned was, hey, if I was going to get my warranties, I need to have some sort of way that says I've proven the fact that I have commissioned this equipment correctly. And so at the end of the day, do you have a commissioning process? And then after commissioning, again, I think here's where we get past this arrow right here. This is all pre-operators interface.
So, with your experience, the extended warranties, the analysis as far as the value of those start.
Yeah, when I got involved in owning this process, I was pretty good at getting my warranties. When I didn't do this, we didn't even look at warranties. We were just looking at keeping equipment up and running. And I think right now, the industry average right now for warranty execution is under 20%. So when I first started getting into, coming up with this idea about asset management approach, I went to NRA, went to the shows and started talking to the manufacturers. Learning that this is a big profit item where they're keeping, in their pocket, is saying, hey, we have to set aside this warranty money. If it's not executed on every year, it goes back into our bank. So all of a sudden, hey, we can lower our prices, or we can keep our prices the same. We're going to extend warranties. What you're seeing right now is a huge extension of warranties of this refrigeration, 5-7 years, even on some of this equipment. Why? Again, from the customers we have in our system, I can show you people that don't execute on their asset management or execute under 20%. We have customers like Inspire Brands who have Buffalo Wild Wings and Arby's. They're executing on 75% of their warranties. That's huge. It's saving them close to $10 million a year. And we got facts to show that. So, the warranty piece is
Sometimes like we're rural, so I always push for the warranty. That's trip charges.
right. In the world I lived in at Brinker, there's times that we chose not to. We said take the warranties out of the price. Now we had the buying power to do that. I don't think you can do that very much anymore. But back in those days, we could establish that with Delfield. We could do that. We'd say strip the warranty price. We're not going to try to get a warranty. We're not getting a warranty. So one of the things I would say is from the procurement side that they think they're getting a great deal and think this is a great deal because I got this warranty. But the execution part is so tough. And so that's one of the things I talked to Jim about. And before I had, I said, hey, what is the process? How can we ever find a way to standardize this process amongst all manufacturers? Now you have ITW, you have these large conglomerates now that are trying to put an umbrella over their service and their support. But every time it goes warranty, you still have to go back to each manufacturer and go through their zigzag to their process. So like that, but it needs to be a session that talks about, hey, here's a real end user. Here's their experiencing. All the manufacturers have a desire to make sure they got the best product out there. But at the end of the day, they never reached that end user. They got all these layers in between. And so again, the idea is to say connect. And I think we're getting closer as more and more people adopt an asset management approach. You're coming back with data now. You're not coming back with opinions. Opinions get into and that's not good. So I think when you have all your eggs in a basket, when you do go execute that warranty, it's much easier to fall back and get that manufacturer to support you, or the manufacturer's reps can come in and freaking help drive that too. That's what Brinker, if you grew up in a restaurant business in Dallas and you grew up through Brinker, every one of the reps in this market. and they're all great partners, and they all become really good friends because we're all working together to get the best results. And I think that's again, there's resources you can use when you get into those situations that can help you if you are buttoned up and have a good asset management program. They all say, man, if you give me this, I can help you. But if you just give me, hey, you're complaining because it's not working without data behind it, it's not going to go very far. But operations and maintaining, one thing you talk about operations is equipment changes all the time. Who's training these users on how to use this equipment? What does that training program look like? Because most of the time you got to open a new location up, you're going to lose 40% of the people you hire. And so if I'm training everybody at the front end on how to use equipment from day one, I have these great sessions and they all walk around and they show everybody to use it and how to maintain it. Well, those people are usually gone. And so who's carrying on that? You have a great cleaning and great maintenance program, because operators are the ones that use the equipment, but daily they're the ones that have to clean it. And they're also the ones that have to call and get those repairs done too. And again, they don't really have a whole lot of help. They have, some people have facilities managers who are the representative, but also not a great help. So, and then a maintenance program, PM maintenance. In the world we live in today, guys, everybody's pinching dollars right now. Everybody's trying to put that bottom line. Everybody's working that bottom line. The first thing that people question, operations questions it, finance teams question it, but these preventive maintenance programs. First thing I want to do is strip them out. When you have any type of financial issues, they want to strip those PM programs out, because their theory is we're PMing this stuff, but it's still breaking. So why we spend that money there? But the thing is, reason why you can PM something all to death, but if you didn't do all these things right up here, that equipment doesn't have a chance. So that's when things, hey guys, the PM program that says, hey, we do it because we want to maintain manufacturers' specifications, and so we can get warranty, but we know we're not executing warranty very well. So what's the purpose for PM? And what is the right PM? Because again, the right PM says, how often, do I have the right water conditioning program to help my ice machines? If you did a Cupid ice machine, one thing we did at Corner Bay, we thought we were going to be a big beverage company. We studied. We started studying, Starbucks. We studied Panera, because Panera was kicking our butt. So we said we're going to enhance our beverage program. So we said we're going to go in and start conditioning our water better, because water starts everything. Think about New York people and their pizza, how the water makes their dough better. So we went and said, what are they doing? We found they're using one water filtration company, a conditioning company, to go out and do these tests on the water before they even build their restaurants. They created a different water conditioning program for each location. And they also did a maintenance program too. So, but we put these Cupid ice, and we said, the Cupid ice is going to be our way, man. Everybody likes Sonic ice, So we put those ice machines in. Well, learning what the sensitivity is of those ice machines, they were failing left and right, and we got to pull them damn things out of here. That ice isn't that important, because we're getting killed in these ice machines. We realized that we weren't maintaining them well enough. They had to be maintained every quarter, not every 6 months. You wouldn't. An ice machine maintenance most times is just to clean, make sure there's not green or pink algae growing, and then clean the bends. It wasn't for the longevity of the ice machine. It was just to keep the health inspectors away, So we learned that, hey, the maintenance program had to be enhanced. So you look at that, enhancement of the maintenance program, the cost of that versus the cost of the equipment. When does it start making sense financially? So again, maintenance programs are great if they're used right, but they're also, you need to be factored into what the estimated useful life is, as well as what your investment value is. Because again, everything now has to be financed. And so one thing we've learned about facilities maintenance, again, facilities falls into this operation and maintenance side. We learned about that is most facilities managers aren't really great financial people, right? You'd say, hey, facilities finance. But financial people are terrible facilities people too. So you want to be able to give everybody a view from what makes sense to them. And that's what a good asset management program would do. So now we get into where I say the next step in this whole game says, I've got this piece of equipment. I'm using this piece of equipment. I'm doing what I think I'm supposed to be doing at the maintenance side, doing my cleaning right, but man, it's still not working. So when you get into modify and upgrade is what I call going back upstream. Because now I'm going back upstream, something along those steps here is causing this thing not to be effective and live up to what I think is my SMEs for life. Now, where it falls, that becomes the shell and the egg game, right? That's where you have to start really having great data to go back in. Great data can pinpoint you to what the problems are, what the failures are.
So as you looked at competitors water, you respect quick. Obviously, you want to try to have that full grill. You get quality equipment down. When you're trying to spec something, was it change in specs, lessons learned, or did you kind of go and see what the competition did? Hey, why they're using this kind of grill, that kind of stuff. You know what I'm saying?
No, I know exactly what you're saying. So lessons learned cost you money, cost you your reputation a little bit. Again, we have into the world of franchising. So lessons learned, I'd say 90% of stuff is lesson learned. That kind of goes back into this whole thing keeps flowing over again, right? There's always a starting point at identifying needs. But then all of a sudden you get back into, when you get past the modify and upgrade and get back into replacement, or you can go back and replace it with the same exact model and serial number, because did that achieve what you expected it to? Did that hit its life cycle? Did that hit its performance? If it did, then you go back and replace it. If not, you go back and identify needs all over again. Then you got to go back to all these cycles again to make sure you have all those things together. That's why the complexity of lifecycle asset management is pretty tight, you know. So I will say what I learned, and I think Lois would tell you, when I was doing this, I was the biggest thorn in people's butt, because if food and beverage guys were speccing something out, hey, we want to put flat top grills in, we want to do pancakes. Okay, so you go back and say, okay, how thick of a plate do I need to get the recovery time for pancakes? Pancakes, you don't need a whole lot of recovery time. We can get the cheapest one there was, 2 foot, this. But all of a sudden you go back and say, do you have any other visions for this flat top? Well, now we're going to start doing hot sandwich. And well, 2 foot's not going to be enough. I need to get bigger, but I can't get bigger. I don't have the hood space. And all of a sudden now we go back into the whole investment model saying, you can build a business case for this because it's not going to be effective. So then you go back and say, okay, I need to get a 2-inch platen because we're going to start doing other things besides that. I need heavy recovery because I don't have enough space, and I got a bunch of stuff that's going to keep going down on that thing, so my recovery needs to be. So again, that's why you say if you don't have all these players built into the decision-making team, you're going to lose somewhere. And that's why that's what again that's why I wanted to be the person that owned it all. And again, it puts emphasis on you, but I want to be the person that said, I'm going to go. Marketing comes up and we want to put lemonade in. Well, cool. We're going to start putting bubblers in, but where are we going to put them? We have no place. So again, you have to go back and say, hey, before you start making these great ideas and say we're going to push this into a marketing plan, you got to get with me and I got to help you decide how we're going to do this. This doesn't happen that much. And then when you start working outside of this cycle, your equipment lifespan is getting lessened and your cost is going up to maintain your equipment.
How is data collected at the site? There's an issue. Is it your software they put in and repair, trip ticket?
Yeah. I'll get into that a little bit later, but it's an asset first approach, right? So everything starts with the asset, the make, model, and serial number. So when that work order is generated off of that service request is generated off of that asset, it's just like VIN number in your car. So again, now know, hey, this asset is X age, it has X amount of money spent against it, and when's it time for me to think about, is it past this decision-making time of the useful life? And that goes back to your finance team. Hey, what I know you're depreciating things at a 5-year clip because that's standard accounting practice. But is that really what we expect this asset to live only 5 years? Do I really expect an HVAC unit to only last 5 years? Well, I think we want to get 12 years out. So we have to separate book value versus estimate useful life. Because if operator calls the fixed asset accounting team says, I want to replace my rooftop unit, how much book value is left? They say, none. Well, it's only 6 years old. Well, they're going to say, capitalize that thing because it hit my budget, And so again, you start replacing things before the estimate useful life is up. So you have to put all this into this big financial model too, because that's that business model that works and makes it scale across the board. And again, puts it into the franchise. If you're in a franchising organization, man, franchising is, they're the biggest nitpickers there are. One thing, yes, sir.
I think too, with this model, I know in my experience, the problem is all these people are sitting at the table at one time trying to understand what everybody does. And so if I have my piece of this puzzle, I deal with my stuff. I don't care about nobody else's stuff. In the day, it affects the bottom line. And just trying to get somebody to understand, oh, I may be the plan design guy, but what about the operation maintenance? How does this work? How does this tie into this? And so many of these folks do not know how it ties in. The purchasers don't have a clue about operation and maintenance because they don't want to talk.
I,
And they need to talk to understand their piece to this puzzle. Because at the end of the day, it's one team, one fight.
yes, sir.
It's vital.
Yeah.
And this is why you want to be in charge of everything, because you could drag everybody to the table.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a piece of equipment, this might have been after you left, where there were two different models, and this one was cheaper than that one, and they appeared to function the same way. So we went with the cheaper one, and we spent a crap ton of money on maintenance. And what we figured out? This one that's cheaper had the filter in the back, and the 17-year-old who was closing wasn't fixing the filter. This one had the filter in the front. So we had to go back and retrofit and change 50 pieces of equipment to the front filter, and all of a sudden our costs went down. And if we had brought operations in at the front to sort out, how does this piece of equipment work and how is it maintained and how will that work within the restaurant environment, we wouldn't have had to go back.
yeah.
I
That's,
think too, we need to understand planned obsolescence. I think that's bigger than what we really understand. We can go through all this stuff, but when you have some piece of equipment to the date it was built, it's stopping. I don't care what you say. I run into this problem a lot of times, and so trying to get the life cycle numbers together for depreciation, I'm constantly changing those things. Constantly. Every year I do a review. These griddles aren't working for 5 years. I got to move into a 3-year category.
yeah, that's,
Constantly.
How much of this is track adjustments? How much of that information so that other people can?
yeah. With our customer group, we help benchmark. We'll benchmark again. We're tracking. I always try to put it together like fast food chicken place, because chicken batter and stuff does a number on fryers and refrigeration, right? But then I also do, taco. We have enough taco. We have Taco Bell. We have Del Taco. We have the ability. We do benchmarking within inside of our customer group to help them understand if they are living up to the benchmark per their we call location type, but their customer type, right? The business type. So ideally, we've been at 6 years. We're just now getting enough great data to go back to manufacturers. Go back to manufacturers, show them, hey, again, fryers especially. We have so much fryer information. So with Dean, I'm able to go. I work with Dean and say, hey, man, look at all these are all your failures. Now we're not selling our data back to manufacturer, but again, that would be a part of our business model down the road is to start,
It seems like
Yeah.
Public don't have much. Their bottom line is so people that have to, like in our,
Mhm.
give our, for that,
Yeah.
that data value.
Yeah.
All everything that's been gathered from whatever source,
Yeah.
gathered.
Yeah, we could definitely talk, and I
And if we had that information, we would do something else other than just like motivate.
exactly right. No, so the best case that I can tell you guys, and and your point is spot on, man. That was my whole experience, and that's where, but with Inspire Brands, they've been in our system now for 6 years. They're our first customers, and that's the ones that really, your first customers, 2,000 locations, and all of a sudden you're spinning around pretty quick. But They have enough data to go back in, and they've made a determination who they're using for self-contained refrigeration based upon performance. But they've also turned a facilities team. They don't have a facilities team; they're an asset management team. Their asset management team is a part of their research and development. They report up to that now, so they're the ones that are helping spec out. Again, it could be design guys that spec out. But they're specing out the manufacturer that's working best for them, because that manufacturer is supporting their warranties best. That manufacturer has performed best to them and has the best service network, and they can keep their equipment up and running. So now they are getting a seat to the table, and that's one of the things that I've always, I think I have, again, 2015, we started promoting the purpose and the strength of asset management. We have a deck that says take it to the C-suite. So you don't hear the whole lot of vice presidents to facilities in the C-suite. But again, you hear the C-suite complain all the time about what it costs to maintain these buildings. Now, the reason why they don't go to the C-suite is because they don't have the data that the C-suite wants to hear. They have opinions, and their opinions become very emotional opinions, because they feel like they're being challenged, and they say, I didn't make any decisions here, but now I'm responsible. So they think it's an unfair position to be in. I always say, guys, a facilities team doesn't just fix stuff. I'd rather than spend time analyzing this data to go back and help make better decisions and go back and reverse. And then again, going back upstream is when you still have an asset within its life cycle, and you still go back and go upstream and fix it. That's terrible money spent. But then when you get to the top and you're saying, hey, we keep repeating. When you get to the top and you get back to identified needs, hey, they can come up there and help you identify needs over again and help with that prototype. Instead of building 200 restaurants, the same issues, the same problems, that's not going to repeat itself over and over again. Hey, can you stop that? Now, again, that's a big play, because you don't understand, people want to see increased revenues. But now the thing is, increased revenues are still important, but then profitability is really important now more than ever. People are starting to look at cash. Look at the restaurant industry right now. It's failing. Now, you saw a boom. You saw a boom a few years ago. Now you're seeing a bust. This bust isn't because people aren't going out anymore. People are going out still. People are making choices, but also people just aren't making money. Most of these franchisees aren't making money. Yeah. Yeah, services.
See automation kit.
Uh-huh.
Machine that first buys that automate. Now with automation, higher emphasis on product, life cycles of equipment. But hey, it's got to work.
Yeah, no, I think that goes back to that slide I was showing you. Now we have over 250 restaurant companies saying we need this to be successful. And again, when I start putting make, model, serial number into an equation, when you start looking at AI, how AI is going to help generate real-time information, like, hey, you want troubleshooting guides? Hey, troubleshooting guides are out there. They're not in the right people's hands. They're not operators' hands who's pushing that button that says fix my equipment. But if you get AI and you go out here and say, hey, I got this problem, I can go search and pull back this troubleshooting guide and help these guys. If you talk to water heater people right now, 70% of water heater failures are things that can be fixed over the phone. You talk to the plumbers, you talk to the manufacturers. You go to Great Plumbing Office, they have a list that says when a dispatch call comes in for a water heater, they have these 7 questions they ask. They say 70% of those calls can be avoided through great troubleshooting. But again, we don't put that information in the right people's hands. So when you have the data and we talk about what the powerful make, model, serial number, and age does for you, everybody gets better. And AI automation is going to really, really help a whole lot when it comes down to this. I think that's more the IoT device connectivity. AI would be more of analyzing decisions that are being made and turn it into the financial model would come out and help make people make better decisions at the time of need.
So let's say you obviously you're city, you need data. So see equipment is data. You can then also track how equipment is being used. It's being used. That part cause lifecycle.
Mm-hmm.
Are you seeing that where being able to get data sent all the time? Or is it just looking at it here? So go to that.
Yeah, so we have a lot of customers that have refrigeration connectivity and starts showing when the temperatures are dropping below expectation. And a lot of times, hey, it's during peak time, right? It's being used. It's not recovering. So then, hey, then it goes back to your specification of refrigeration. Hey, does that make us want to look at self-contained versus remote? Can remote recover faster? Can we look at different self-contained, like Lois saying, different models have different types of recovery times. So again, if that is the case, then I need to think about my specifications. But yeah, once you get that data, when that data comes in, it tells you something, right? And people do have to analyze data. You need data, people to take the data, to analyze it, to tell you what could be driving this. And again, I think when I talk about my case study I have with Lazy Dog, they said, Mike, we need to figure out what's driving these expenses. I didn't go ask anybody anything. I just took their data and I looked at their data. I looked at their make, model, serial. I looked at their invoices, and I said, guys, let me tell you I'll tell you what your story is. And they're like, the whole team just got deflated because every one of these people on this call got on the call to hear what our analysis were. And they all go, oh man, we never even thought about that. No, and I'll show you that later. Did you have something?
Is your data that you're collecting, are you taking in consideration like B&I, higher ed, military? Because I worked in all those, and they all use this equipment differently.
Yeah.
That can add to certain successes and certain failures
That's
based on usage and how it's being used.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's funny because that's location types. Like high-end restaurants have a whole different subset of problems with the same type of equipment that a fast food restaurant does.
Yeah.
And again, because the volume, use case. So yeah, we do definitely try to, we're doing benchmarking. We're comparing against a like for like concept or execution style. Because yeah, it doesn't make sense. And like I said, we learned chicken places kind of sit over here. Chicken places like Raising Cane's. Every 3 years, they replace their fryers. They don't care; they just replace them. They can't afford not to have a fryer now. So their fryers last 3 years. They put that in SVs for life. They put that in their financial model, and they just roll them through. And I got a buddy of mine. He worked for Sky Chefs, in the airport. Well, he goes, man, to get service at airport's a pain in the ass. But I have a guaranteed amount. I have a guaranteed amount of food I'm cooking every day. It's contracted. So you know what? I'm going to buy a lower end refrigeration because I'm not heavy producing, right? I'm only producing in bulk. And so the last 3 years, every 3 years, we're going to roll it out here. I need one service company comes in that has airport access that can be our warranty guys. Warranties are out. We come back and we just buy all new equipment. And again, if that works in that business model. And so everybody has a different financial model. And I think that always has to be a part of this whole equation. This is a process. And I really try to take time underlying process because it's not a one size fits all deal. And again, your business great, but now your business has to make a decision. Do you want to execute with this practice and this process? Or do you want to just continue to play break, fix, need it, buy it? If that fits in your model, then good, but I'm not here to tell anybody how to do it, but I think when, my theory, when we talked about extending assets lifestyle cycle, there's so many components to that. When that's when Carrie was like, okay, I'm going to see what you're going to talk about. And I'm like, Carrie, I can talk for 3 hours, man. What do you want me to talk? How do I condense this? And I said, the audience engagement is going to help a lot because they're going to drive the conversation because we can sit there and go on and on. So that's why I'm trying to condense things and keep it saying that you can control this. You do know your business. You do got to bring all the right people to the table. And you do got to make a conscious business decision from the leadership down. We're going to follow this process. And without that, you can have data. They can tell you things. You have excuses. And those excuses can say, hey, it's not my fault. Facilities guy, look, I'm showing you. If y'all want to change, fine. Or a facilities person can make themselves more powerful in the organization and maybe get a promotion by helping circumvent this process. But kind of going into, this is kind of we're going to transition into, if you do want to go back and make a change within your organization, what does your organization need to do? How they got to commit? So again, if you guys want to have the break fix mentality and get by it, or if you guys want to have the asset management program and try to get in front of the front end. And the front end, to me, we start looking at decommissioning and repurchasing. The headwinds are not as bad as they used to be, but I know damn good and well, when you couldn't just go get an ice machine if something broke. You had to go back and fix something that may have been 10 years old, unless you knew you're going to say, I need, like what I love about our program, what we can do with the good asset management program, it says, I got 40 ice machines that are over 10 years old. Let's go bulk purchase those. Let's go set those aside. Let's plan that replacement. And let's be able, and then so hard to go ask someone to plan replacement if you don't have the data behind it. Yeah. And so again, that's why you guys have so many remodels, big turnover remodels that go in major projects that happen. But yeah, so again, yeah, the upgrade pieces. And again, I think that's when you start analyzing the spec you currently have, how's that performing to your expectations? Is it good enough? Or again, the next model out, does that give you better bandwidth and better expansion? And can you put that into your budget? And then, like I said, it'd be nice to go back in, and always everybody likes to test, right? So it'd be nice to test that in one environment to make sure it is going to make the impact that it seems like it will make. Because I think when combi ovens first came out, that was one of the big things everybody jumped all over. Yeah, combi ovens all of a sudden became, when he first came out, they became a pain in the butt, man. They became a big expense, and a upfront expense and a back end expense. I think that's like AutoSham basically has their own installation program, their own. They basically had to take that baby and rock and cradle it.
Training the staff to use them correctly.
Oh, yeah, and that's a training piece is huge, and the cleaning piece is huge. Again, like I know when we first went to Corner Bakery, we were going back and figuring out who was going to be our chemical supplier. And so, Ecolab's always out there, but you're like, okay, I don't want Ecolab just be Ecolab. I don't want you to come in your white coats and say, hey, this is this. Hey, you got to do more than that. You got to create a line of chemicals that can be commercial strength, but also treat residential finishes. So, and then also my equipment, I'm not just going to buy one cleaner. Hey, I want you to come in, not only give me the chemical, but I want you to write the instructions on how to clean. So we went, and every night we went to Ecolab and our employees, and we cleaned every piece of equipment, all these different chemicals. We found the best chemical, and we made them write the process. And we bought tools that always supported that. So again, that led to an increase. Again, how deep you want to go is up to you in your organization. But man, we invested $450,000 in new chemicals and new tools, but it extended our life cycle to a point where it made sense to us,
Does our preventive maintenance, and for years I've been asking for some kind of a tracking tool of what you're doing, when, so that we can also track it and budget for it. Does this assist with, like, can an outside person use it?
Yeah. Our software has a preventive maintenance module to it, where you go in and all of a sudden now you own the schedule, and you own the scope, and you send out the work order when at your time, and then they have to upload that work order back in, and you keep the log. It automatically keeps a log of all your preventive maintenance, when it happened, and how much it cost. And so that's just a scheduler type of situation. But yeah, taking control of a big, again, I think preventive maintenance is up to 30% of your total repair and maintenance cost, and not expecting that vendor to control that is not ideal, and then having the scope again, maintenance on your combi ovens, maintenance on your water filtration. So all those maintenances, of course, your hood cleaning, and what I always call governed maintenance. It's just hood, grease traps, hoods, and those type of handles.
I would think that as a contractor, they would have something like this already
They-
in place,
yeah,
but they
they-
don't.
Yeah, they typically do, but it's you don't have the visibility to it, right? Oh wow, yeah,
They're wonderful. They've always done right by us, so it's something I would want to introduce them
yeah, yeah.
to
Yes,
grow.
It does. Yeah, yes, yeah. It's a budgeting piece for repair, maintenance, and capex.
Replacement budget.
Yeah,
I need to talk to you.
yeah, yeah. It's So again, what we try to do is all the things you guys are experiencing. I built this based upon living in your shoes. And again, that's what I said. It's a tool that I really feel it comes from the heart, and it comes from my experience. And said there's not something wasn't out there to do this, and all under one system as well.
You got your hair.
No, it's going away. So anyway, so organization requirements. So the main thing we talked about last guys. So defining the assets, performance goals, and make sure they align with the business model. That's really looking at that SMEs for life, and does that work within the financial business model you have? And again, doesn't need to be decided by the facilities manager. Doesn't need to be decided by the finance guy, but it's a combination of all the above. So you first got to have a strategy your company wants to live behind, and so that's your first and foremost. And then you want to be able to, again, assess the risk and opportunities with each asset's life stage. What we just talked about, right? Every stage there's a risk that happens from the design, from every stage you talked about. So if the risk says I gotta spend only X amount of dollars in my equipment package, then you're inheriting some risk already in that, because you're saying, okay, maybe I can't get the top of the line stuff because it doesn't fit my budget. So with that, do I need to adjust my SMEs for life? So I got to adjust my repair budget to accommodate what our business model is for the upfront investment. So those are all the things, those risks and those opportunities have to be thought about on the front end if you're really going to get the company, your organization to adopt an asset management program. Okay. And then again, to encourage cross-team collaboration. That's one of the things you said, man. How do we get everybody around this table and all have the same belief, the same common goal, and the same results? I think those are the things, again, those are challenges, but those have to be decided on by somebody besides those individuals. It has to be a company's initiative. So this is how we're going to operate our business. And most of the time, if you do have the right data to go present to that C-suite, they're going to buy into this type of program. And again, as I said, with our group at Inspire Group, those guys took themselves to the table with all this data, and all of a sudden the organization just shifted and changed and put the facilities guys on the front end of decision making versus being on the back end receiving, which was kind of cool. So once you get your management strategy pulled together, the next thing you do is you got to have a discipline to maintain it, right? So the discipline has to stay true. Someone has to be the gatekeeper of that. So again, you have to assign the roles, and the roles of the asset data. Asset data, like you're saying, changes all the time. Someone has to be able to upkeep that, and figure out a way to make sure that they're bringing in if you want you to replace. I'll tell you that the thing that I found was the craziest thing in the world is you go talk to a fixed asset team. It says, how many fryers do you have at this store location X? They may have 5 banks of fryers and they never retired anything. Because the fixed asset team is totally out of the loop of all this stuff, right? So at the end of the day, hey, I got a procurement team that's buying a new replacement fryer, but they're never telling the fixed asset team to retire it. So one of the things we've had an issue with, with a big client of ours, when we go in and start selling this product to them and say, okay, we're going to go out and we're going to do a survey of every location. In that survey, we're going to go, take a photo of your asset. We're going to log the make, model, and certain. We're going to tell you the age of everything. So we're going to do a true inventory assessment of your locations. That's how you have to build. That's how you have to build it for each location. Well, the fixed asset team came and said, we're not playing that game, because now you're going to be challenging our books. And we have to go back and reconcile, get audited against what's really out there. We're going to have to now take a huge loss. So one of the things that we always try to say, guys, we're not here look at book value. We're here to look at estimates for life. We're not here to audit your equipment. We're here to just tell you what your operators are currently dealing with today. So again, understanding that having a clear role of who's going to maintain that asset data and bring it in, and then the streamlined decision making process. Who's all at the table? Whose voice is heard when you go back and have to make your decision making process. Now again, your voice can be heard better if you have the data to back you up. And then again, you got to have some sort of technology to help you track all this, right? It can't just be done through spreadsheets. And I think you say you may have tried. We have a lot of people that have kind of built their own programs, and that's good. It works so much, but all of a sudden it just gets overwhelming. And so help with people that put millions and millions of dollars in behind their technology. And there's more companies out there than just our company. But I'm not, again, you got to have some sort of way to technology to use. Then of course you got this year long-term planning. Okay, so organization has to want to have long-term planning as well. So you got to establish SMEs for life for the assets, sustainability, and then once it hits that, it's like me buying a car. If I buy a car and all of a sudden I've already paid it off, I can drive it for X amount of years before all of a sudden I start seeing those repairs. So I feel like that's money in my pocket, right? No different to restaurant equipment. Once you get past that SMEs for life and it's still working and still not showing a bunch of signs of peak repairs, there's some point in time where it's going to start showing a sign of peak repair. But how do you track it if you don't know the make, model, and serial number? If I'm just tracking off of, hey, a piece of refrigeration was down, I have no idea which one it is. But when I look at make, model, serial, and say, hey, this one right here is starting to see this trend, then you start thinking about when it's time to look at a replacement or capital replacement program.
So, listen to what you say. It almost, sorry. On the other side, you're dealing with people that are amortizing stuff and all that. So, have you found from experience that the financial people want to extend the life of the asset? They want to just do the useful life, buy it again, and then if they extend it, are they saving the money that they're saving, whatever? Are they saving that for the next purchase to replacement?
I find what financial people want is some sort of a stability. They don't want to see these peaks and these valleys because, like I said, repair cost is treated totally different than capital cost. So all repair cost is cash out of your pocket. So they don't want to see that cash flow out of their pocket. So they want to say, hey, just give me something I can create some level of consistency. Yeah, And so again, if you have a good asset management program, you can define again where that threshold is, and you balance it between a maintenance program and a repair program, and then knowing to go the CapEx program. So they want flat line predictability in repair and maintenance cost. So that's So then again, there's a stage after you've created this estimates for life. You need to make sure that asset's tracking and that remaining useful life is still at some stage, midpoint, some stage, you're going to start saying, hey, is my remaining useful life still there? Do I still got 2 years left of this, or I need to retire it faster? When I do that, then all of a sudden I got to go back and look at how I'm going to retire that capital asset, depreciation, and go back and buy a new asset. So again, that's all part of the flow of the long-term planning. It all has to be done from a corporate side, and it has to be done from the top. And then the best thing to do is talk about CapEx planning for asset upgrades and do it on just on a right time basis, right? Don't do it too far ahead, but don't do it too far behind. So hopefully your predictability gets really good with all your data, and you're managing that data, and you understand what that asset's true life cycle is inside your organization. And then again, so here's some of the benefits of what a good life cycle asset management program will provide you. Optimize asset performance. Again, hey, if you've done all the things right in that life cycle, all the phases of the life cycle, you're going to find this equipment is fine-tuned and running the way you expect it. Great. If it's not, you made some sort of a mistake on the front end, you go correct that mistake, and you find how to get that equipment to be optimized. Warranty execution, I guess, that is the most, okay. We're at time? Okay. Well, So the benefits, I think we talked about everything there. And then again, data-driven decision making. And again, there's technology out there, guys, that help you support that type of program. And then at the end of the day, the Lazy Dog case study, we kind of went over a lot of different case studies in our conversation. But again, if you look at data, you can find that sometimes, they're spending too much money on their fryers, and they have $36,000 to spend in the first year. That it wasn't the fryers because they were filtering into an RTI oil collection system that was 250 feet away. And those fryer pumps weren't designed to pump that grease that far. So it wasn't the equipment at all. It was their design. It was everything besides that. So again, they didn't see it until we go back and show them the data and it tells them what the failures were. And the failures were all about driving grease back into their containment system. So, again, understanding all those components and make sure assets life cycle, strengthen the life cycle of the assets. But hey, thanks for all your participation. I hope we got most of your questions and answers throughout the conversation, but definitely appreciate having the opportunity to talk to you guys. Yeah. If you guys need anything, you guys can feel free to contact me. If you want to take a picture of that QR code, I'd be more than happy to talk to you guys. Also, you can get a download copy of this deck. And again, if we can help you guys any way with supporting you guys through the software, be more than happy to talk to you guys about that too. So thanks again. I appreciate it.